And say good morning and good afternoon and good evening wherever you are. Welcome. I'm glad to have you with us here today. This is May 25th, 2016, and it's WordPress Wednesday, where for the next hour we're going to talk about page builders and inbound marketing. That's right, inbound marketing. I'm going to show you how that applies to WordPress. And today we're going to look at a handful of plugins you'll likely want to consider for your own website or blog, so hang in there with us. As usual, comments, questions, issues, critiques are always welcome. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve, and I'm known by many online as the WordPress Wizard. And a few have also called me the Coach's Coach or the Web Guy for coaches, because I work with a lot of coaches. As a published author, WordPress instructor, and online presence developer, I earn my entire living right here on the web, mostly by helping others to do the same. I'm the founder of wizardsplace.com, and you can contact me through that site or by email. I've posted links to each of those in the sidebar, or at least I will be doing so. And I work with coaches, home-based business owners, heart-centered marketers, writers, and other creatives, all solopreneurs who, like you, are serious about moving their business forward, who need to expand their marketing reach, or who just want to develop a successful online presence so they can work less and earn more. I'd be glad to help you do that. I'm approachable, affordable, and the first half-hour consultation is always free. I'm certainly glad to talk to anyone who wants to discuss their business and online presence needs. You should contact me today to begin your journey from website to wealth. And don't take the formality of that opening presentation too seriously. If you just want to contact me to talk, hey, I'm always good for that too. So the friendships that are built through these programs are as important as the business relationships. So by all means, feel free. And we've got some really good stuff today. I did say I would post my contact information, so I'll do that first because I keep forgetting to do it. I should have had it up there already. I did have the website earlier, but not the email. So there's the email and the website if you want to get a hold of me. I'm moving most of my business and WordPress related activity to Wizard's Place. I've had other sites where it's been spread out kind of in a more niched, focused arrangement, which I actually felt was better for the people coming, that they could find the website that more suited their particular needs. But I've found for myself, it's just been very difficult to manage those multiple sites. And I find the same questions come from different people on different sites. So I end up answering the same question, on WP Business Network for some business people, or on Wizard's Place for some other business people who haven't found the other site, and so on. So I'm just kind of merging it all together. There's been a lot of change going on Wizard's Place, but a lot of additions, a lot of good stuff that I've been locating. Hey, it's not me. There's some wonderful stuff out there that I've been able to get my hands on and get rights to use and to publish. And I'm just really impressed with the way the marketplace is going. So I'm sharing as much of that stuff as I can. Drop around Wizard's Place. You'll poke around. You'll find all kinds of good stuff. And so here we are. This is WordPress Wednesday, and we're here 3 times a week. I guess everybody here knows that, but I'll put this in for the replay for the people who may discover this later. We're here 3 times a week. Motivational Monday, and next Monday will be week 9 of our business blogging series. Of course, WordPress Wednesday today is where we look at all things WordPress. And please bring your WordPress questions or issues, and we'll try to deal with them as well. And then Focus Friday, which is a focus on you and your business success, where you can share what you're doing, what you're launching, get into a seat and talk to other people, get a bit of promotion going on. So show up on Friday and bring your best smile and your hairbrush and be ready to come on live and tell us what you're doing. It'll be a great opportunity to share and explore. I love to hear what other people are doing. And so that's Focus Friday. If you have any questions, you can post those in the sidebar. Best way to do that is to put a / and the letter Q followed by a space, then type your question and press enter. And that'll pop it in just as I've shown there now with the blue circle with the Q in it, the Q ball. and it helps me spot your question a little better. Cindy's working the sidebar for us today, so she'll keep an eye out for things and bring them to my attention as well. And that just makes it a little bit easier for us if you can do that. By all means, though, discuss other things in the sidebar with each other. I'm not too, as long as it's relatively on topic and not out of place for a public viewing, you can discuss pretty much anything. And I'm certainly not against promotion. If you've got something to share, you're doing something, you want to let somebody know what you do, somebody's asking for some help with something, by all means, share your information and just post your information there so people who see it now and in the replay will be able to find it and find you. I'm all about sharing. So you're certainly welcome to do that. I know some people are a little reticent. They don't want to impose. They've been chastised by other hosts on blogs for sharing things. Different strokes for different folks. I do it a little differently, and I'm glad to have you post. So, it's cool. And so, just post your links, guys. Even if you've done it before, do it again today, because somebody new was going to follow the replay on this one that hasn't seen it before, and they'll get to you. So keep that in mind. Now, I normally share a book in a Facebook group, and I'm not going to do that today because I'm going to be sharing some new plugins, at least maybe new to you, and that'll keep you doing your research enough to do without that. But there are lots of good free books around, and I encourage you to look for them. And there's great Facebook groups to participate in, so keep that in mind as you're exploring the internet. Just use that search bar in Facebook. If you start to type in the name of a group or the topic, it'll pop up with examples that you can pick and choose from. So that's cool. I do want to mention a couple of things here, a little bit of self-promotion, just to show you that it's okay in the group. And this is my WordPress classroom, my Wizard's Place WP classroom. And you may want to consider that. We get into some more in-depth work with that. There's a growing list of videos there. When you first sign up, there's a front-end loaded price there when you first sign up. It's not much, but it pays for the cost of the whole thing, set up and access, and the videos that I'm bringing on board. It started out with 3 sets of videos that give a good introduction and understanding of WordPress, things that you may not have normally seen. So that's a good place to start. And I'm adding videos to that as I go. I've just added a set first of this week, and I have another one already here waiting to be added. So I'll be getting on to that hopefully this afternoon. And the price of admission is more than covered by those videos. I think you'll find them extremely good. And then the ongoing price is just $12 a month for a weekly live session in a classroom situation. We use Zoom, and we deal with specific WordPress problems, with specific issues. I do screen sharing, I do installations, I do analysis of plugins and themes. We look at a lot of different things. So it's really a great opportunity for a very nominal fee to get some in-depth hands-on experience with stuff. Now, some of the people here are more advanced perhaps than that, and I understand that's fine, but if you know somebody that needs a little help along the way, send them along to that link. It's a good place to go. I do the classroom sessions each week, and get right into some meat and sharing with good things. The classroom is recorded, and those recordings are placed on the site as well, so that students who can't make the live presentation can get the involvement, get the information anyway. Works out quite well. And I want to mention my content creation workshop, which is coming. The last physical piece of that came together yesterday. We've been waiting for some material that was promised to us, and it came in over the weekend and got put into place yesterday, and we're just doing the final polishing. The editor is going over all of the pages, and we'll have that announcement for the launch on that very, very soon. It has now been just under a year, and it's it's been cool. Christopher, yes, please post that on your website if you wish. The classroom is an ongoing thing. People can start anytime. They sign up and move into it and pick up where we are in terms of doing things. There's no strict order to it. It's not a syllabus that we're following and breaking things out in certain times. It's dealing with new issues. I'm always looking for new plugins and new ideas. It's dealing with old stuff, although a lot of the basics are covered in the videos, and the material moves on, but all the we've had a couple of issues with recording, but most of the previous classes are there for catch up if anybody comes in at any time. And I think that was when you say, can we promote that? I think you were referring to the Wizard's Place Classroom. If you're referring to the content creation workshop and you want to make mention of that, I'd love you to do it, but I'll have more details very, very shortly when we do the official launch. And that'll be there. So cool. Thank you for that, Christopher. I appreciate it. So I just want to move into some things that we're going to talk about today that I really think are key elements. And I'm going to start with something that I don't have in the title for the day because there's only so many words I can fit in. But there's a post that I saw, a blog post on WordPress commenting systems. And we've talked about that a couple times here just in passing. And it came up in my classroom a couple of times too, because the whole comment structure in WordPress is a little annoying sometimes. And so this post is a review of 3 major commenting systems: the internal WordPress core comment structure, versus Jetpack. Jetpack offers a minor improvement to that. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised that they put that into Jetpack. Jetpack is created by automatically people that hold the rights to WordPress, and it's the WordPress team. And so I'm a little surprised they put that into Jetpack rather than updating the comment system itself in WordPress. I'm not fully sure I understand that. They certainly have their reasons, and I haven't argued much with what they do. They deliver a pretty good product. But because Jetpack and WordPress are one and the same, it just seems a little redundant to be expanding Jetpack and not dealing with WordPress. But hey, different teams probably working on them in different ways and coming up with different ideas. And then the third one is Discus, which is one of the more popular big boys in the game. And Discus is a third-party service. It's a website and a database that handles the material. The comments are databased on the Discus site. It's quite involved. So you want to read this article. It's pretty good. The guys obviously, a lot of these reviews aren't really reviews. They're ways that people promote the thing that they're interested in. And reading between the lines, it doesn't take you long to see that this guy's a Discus fan, and he's promoting it over the other two. But he's fairly accurate in what he says with the other two, or I would say he's accurate and fairly, as unbiased as he can be when he's already made up his mind that Discus is the best. And Discus probably is the best out of those 3. There are other choices as well that we might want to look at. But the one big thing about Discus is it does slow down the process. He comments on this too, even though he's pro Discus. He shows the difference, and one of the commenters mentions that in the after the article, and you can actually see it because he's using Discus on that blog, and you can see how long the page takes to load. Not only how long it takes to load what you can read, but watch your little twirly thing up on the top of your browser tab and see how long it actually takes to finish loading the page, to getting all the stuff from Discus itself. That's putting a load on your server. It's putting a load on your website. It's taking resources for the client with their browser, all things that you want to consider. And Cindy asks, are these free or premium plugins? All three are free, but I believe there's a premium upgrade for Discus. Jetpack is totally free, and of course you've already got WordPress, and it is free, so there's no upgrade for that. Jetpack, surprisingly, has a lot of good stuff in it now. You really want to have a look at it. And Jetpack is, there's a lot of hype going on around the internet about Jetpack not being good and being bloated, bloated for your system. Well, the logical answer to the two of those things, and you can have your own opinion, certainly, and you can do your own experimentation and analysis, but the logical answer is, if it's not good and it's built by the guys that build WordPress, then why are you using WordPress, right? I mean, if you think that it's Mickey Mouse and somebody's, putting out shoddy material, check who it's made by. So I think that is just a logical acceptance that it's probably pretty good quality. And the part about it being bloated is just not true. That's a falsehood that has circulated around the net because it has so many things in it. People think, oh, look at all this stuff you're putting in this one plugin with all this stuff in it. Man, that must be just a whole lot of code. I don't want to add all that to my site. And why have all those things when I'm only going to use a handful? Well, in fact, you're not actually adding all those things to your site. Most of them are actually delivered from the WordPress site, which is a powerful, fast site. And the site has the code there, and the plugin makes calls to that code. So you're actually getting the same kind of thing you would use if you were using, say, Cloudflare to host your graphics, so that you can get the load of the graphic delivery off of your site. So they've done the right thing there, and I think that it's a pretty good plugin, and it has a lot of great little things in it that you may want to look at. Proton is one of the things you might want to look at if you're not doing anything for offloading graphics and you have a lot of graphics on your site. It's a good way to get a cloud sharing of your graphics, or a cloud delivery of your graphics, without a lot of the configuration difficulties that you're going to have using somebody else. So check out that one, Proton. Several others in there worth spending a little time going through Jetpack if you haven't used it or aren't using it. And it has been updated several times, and it just keeps getting better. So that's the bit that wasn't on the menu for today, and I want to share that with you. I want to look at a couple of other programs in the Pagebuilder area. We've had a fair bit of comment and discussion about that in past Wednesdays. And page builders are really becoming popular. One of the established page builders that has been around for some time is the Divi Builder. It used to be an integral part of the Divi theme, and it is actually what made the Divi theme so popular, I think, was that powerful page builder. And Elegant Themes, the people that make Divi themes, have separated that out as a separate plugin, and you can obtain that separately. It comes with the Divi theme if you purchase the Divi theme. Powerful, useful, flexible page builder, and many people know of it or have used it. But that type of page builder tends to be a little cumbersome to use. It's kind of big and graphical and sort of in your face, and a little bit slow as it creates all the different things that it's doing. And it does a lot of stuff really great, but if you're just looking for a fairly basic page builder, it's a little much, and it is a commercial product. It's a premium product that you pay for, and that turns off some people who are into the open source and free WordPress concept. So there are other choices, and the newest one on the block is Pootle Press. It's Pootle with a T, not the dog. Pootle Press, a page builder, and there's a link to it at the WordPress repository. You can install this right into your site from within your dashboard. It is free, the basic version of it, and it's really quite good. One of the things that I like about it is how smooth and fast it is. That surprised me because a lot of page builders do seem to be a little cumbersome. This is slick. It fits right into your editor. It's smooth. It's fast. You create the rows and the columns. You click on them and you've got access to your actual WordPress editor. You just do all the normal things you're used to. You can do extra features that it has. And the free version is going to be adequate for most people. It'll handle most of what you want to do, some nice extra features for it. When you install it, first of all, when you install it, you need to sign up to a place called Freemium, which is an outfit, the third-party outfit that provides a method of handling product registrations, so that if you do update this to the commercial version, you go through that process to do that, and you're already set up with the outfit. It's okay to approve there. They're not going to hassle you or send you lots of stuff or nag you or anything else. It's free. It just makes that connection. That's the company that Pootle is using for handling that, and they do it well. Greg, hello, welcome. Glad to see you. And Johnny, good to see you with us too. So you can install it, do that sign up. It's okay to go ahead, and you don't have to buy the premium version. The free version is really good. Then there's, it installs in the sidebar with in the menu on the left side of your dashboard, and there's a page builder, and you mouse over that, and you get a stack of submenus that you can go into. And the first one is home. A little confusing for some people. I had a couple people commented they thought it would take them to the Pagebuilder homepage. No, it's actually the home page for Pagebuilder in their settings structure within your dashboard, and it has some videos there. And the first video is about the free version, shows you how to use it. Quite a good little video, takes you through quite quickly. And then the next two videos show you the pro features so that you can see what you don't have in the free version and make that decision whether or not you want to upgrade. As I say, most people are going to find the free version is enough. Certainly for page layout, the free version will do everything you want, do it quickly, and provide a real solid approach to it. And the one nice extra feature that's in the free version that I think is just well, it's the canary's lunch, I'll tell you. It's got a button generator that'll produce buttons, and you can set the URL to those buttons. And if you're using PayPal for payments and you want to put some payment buttons on pages in your site and just pop them in, and you don't like the regular PayPal button, and you find taking the PayPal code and changing out the image so you have your own image is a bit of a nuisance, this will create a button, and then in the URL for the the link activation for that button, back at PayPal, instead of grabbing the button code, grab the email link. That's just a URL that you paste in your email, but it'll work perfectly in a button. Pop that into the button, and now you have a PayPal button of your own design. So that's a nice little feature. You can style those buttons to suit the theme of your site. Looks a little better. Just a great little extra feature that's there. The one thing that I don't like about this one, and I don't like about Divi, is the fact that they use internal coding for the product, for the output, so that when you create a page, it's their own magic behind the scenes that produces what's on the page. And if you stop using the plugin, then you basically lose your page. With Pootle, when you stop using it, it actually removes the Pootle coded structure for the page and restores whatever was on your page before you started. So if you're using this to upgrade a page where you want to go and make changes to that page, and you do that, and then you don't like what you've done and you decide not to use Pootle, it'll restore. It's made a backup of that page content, and it'll restore that page. That's a nice feature. At least they do it that way so you don't lose what you had. But they still you lose what you developed with Pootle. So that's the one drawback that I found. Divi is the same way, only Divi doesn't restore your page. They leave you with a page full of shortcodes that are meaningless to you if you don't have Divi. You can uninstall Divi and reinstall it and reuse those shortcodes. It'll pick up where it left off. So that's a nice feature the other way as well. Both of them do it differently. If they could merge those two, that would be good. And if they could go one step further, which I think is the awesome part about Beaver Builder. I don't know how many people here have seen that or used it. I'm a Canadian, so that has a different terminology for me than perhaps most people will think of. I'm sure they're referring to the busy beaver building a dam here. But that's the important thing. Beaver Builder restores the original page. You get the code. If I understand it, Greg, you use Beaver Builder, don't you? If you have Beaver Builder and you just turn it off and you look at the page, do you still have the page that you created with Beaver Builder, or is it restoring the original page? I'm going to open up the seat here, Greg. If you wanted to jump in and talk about that, okay. I haven't tried it. Okay, I'm looking for a page builder, and I know there's one out there, so if anybody knows this and can comment, there is a page builder that actually produces regular HTML code and CSS markup, that when you're using the page builder, it puts that into the page content, and when you're done, if you turn off your page builder, you still have the page that you designed. And I've been trying to find that one so I could present it too, and I just couldn't locate it, couldn't come across it. I tried various searches in Google and didn't find stuff. If anybody knows that one, by all means, let me know, because I'd like to share that with everybody. That's an interesting aspect. I can understand that, a lot of these page builders are using various other things like jQuery and so on, and so you can't just pop out the HTML code for the things that they're doing. But since you can build just about any page that you would choose to build with HTML and CSS, you certainly should be able to have a page builder that can generate that. And the nice thing about that is you can walk away from the page builder and not lose all the work you've done. So I am looking for that. I know there is one. I've had it mentioned to me, and I just failed to mark it down at the time. So I figured it should be easy to find. But anyway, that's just a little overview on page builders. And why use a page builder? Well, I generally don't need one because I code in HTML, and I can pretty much code HTML in my sleep. I refer to it as punctuation. When I'm writing content on a page, putting in the text, I just wrap it in HTML naturally. I work in the text editor all the time because it's actually a drawback for me to work in the visual editor, because I can't stop my fingers from typing in the HTML, which of course doesn't work in the visual editor and causes some other things. Barb, welcome. I see you just joined us, and you can verify that, because when we're working together on something on your site in the visual editor, because that's what you use, I often have to go back and delete out that errant HTML tag I've typed in there. It's just so much second nature to me when I do that. So I can code the content of a page to lay out within WordPress, within my theme, any way I want, just popping it in there. And that's easy. But, not everybody does that. And there's nothing, WordPress is there to allow you not to have to know HTML. So when you're not using HTML and you're using the visual editor, the upgrade to the visual editor, the visual editor itself is pretty basic, and the upgrade, TinyMC Advanced, which is a plugin, gives you more tools, more controls, but it doesn't allow you to do a lot of things. And so there's plugins with short codes to give you columns and various other things. There's all kinds of themes that have short codes built into them for a variety of features and functions. And all of those things are good, but they, most of them don't just work on the fly easily, and you often have to go somewhere to settings to pick up a shortcode and drag it over. Sometimes there'll be a list of shortcodes added to the editor that you can go in and pick the one you want, pop it in, but it's not always all that easy. But when you're using a page builder, all of those basic layout things, which come down pretty much to rows and columns, are producing the layout for you in the boxes, in the fields that you want, and you can use your visual editor for all the things you're used to within those fields, and you end up with an attractive page with the proper layout that you want, and you can have that handled quite nicely. Just another feature I'll touch on, going back to Pootle Press, the Pootle Builder. Many of the page builders give you the ability to add a new row and then say how many columns you want in that row. So you can have 3 columns or 5 columns. They give you the choice. Divi, for example, gives you several breakups. You can have the broken up so that you've got the width of 2 columns and the width of 1 column. So you've got like a double wide and a single wide, or you could, so it'll be 2/3 and 1/3, or you can have it half and half, or you can have it, 4 quarters, or 5/5, whatever the breakout is. Pootle allows you to do that same thing, but it also allows you to drag the edges of the boxes, so you can adjust your boxes to exactly the size you want, and it shows you the percentages on the bottom. So as you drag it, you can make things the same as you've done before, or you can make them entirely different, and you can drag them back to where they were and get them exactly aligned with those percentages. That's a really nice thing. And Beaver Builder, thanks, Greg. Yeah, Beaver Builder also does that. You can drag. So you get some of these page builders give you extra features. So you want to kind of shop around when you're looking for one. Don't be frustrated to be stuck with what's there. Beaver Builder is probably the most popular right now. Pootle Page Builder is just out. It's only about 10 days old, so it hasn't built a big following yet, but I think it will, partly because of its simplicity. Having that free version to get started with, it allows you to learn it and see whether it's what you want before you pay the money for the commercial version, the pro version. And you may not even need the pro version, because that basic version for many of us would be enough. I've actually installed it on 3 of my sites now. I'm going to have it there because there's things that it does so easily, especially with the column layout, that it's not worth my time even thinking about some of the things. So I'm going to experiment with it, and you'll probably find me using that quite a bit going forward. I have Divi on a site because I wanted to experiment with it and use it, and I've got pretty good at using it. But I don't know that I would want to put Divi on any other sites. It's too much for what I need, but it's an awesome plugin, an awesome page builder for what people want. I've just started experimenting with Beaver Builder, and I really like it, and I can see why it's the #1 plugin, because it's intuitive. It has a really good feel to it, and it doesn't, get that, negative kind of feeling that you can sometimes get with these things, because they're a little bit overwhelming. The Pootle Page Builder is a back-end page designer, similar to Divi, but much more streamlined. When you see it, you'll be amazed at how simplistic it appears, and yet how powerful it is. They've done a good job of integrating it, and I think that's going to be their claim to success in the future. We'll have to see. Anyway, so that's back to page builders off what I was sharing. But I think that there's a whole area of things there that need to be looked at. And the last thing that I want to get into today, which I'm new to this, so I don't have a lot to share yet, but I want to give you guys a heads up so some of the pros here can get into it, and some of the people that just like messing around can have a little fun. And I don't know if anybody here has used this. I'm not actually sure how long this has been around. I just discovered it, so I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I'll take 2 of those and 5 of the gumballs. And this is code in there probably. This is a plugin called Inbound Brew. It's free. It's a very elaborate plugin for being free, but they are taking the solid open source approach and aligning themselves with the whole WordPress concept. There's 3 developers there putting a lot of work into building a very elaborate and fun-filled program. It provides a lot of features. Their feature list, just to give you an idea, they automatically push to social media. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, when you post information on your website, it automatically gets sent to those places. There's an ability to create custom call to actions. You can create custom landing pages. People are always looking for a separate plugin to create landing pages, and this has it as part of the structure. You can create custom forms, and there's some really interesting things. I've only just started with the landing pages and the forms, but it's looking really interesting, and it means that I'm not likely to have to use another form plugin. You can capture leads and manage them, and that's one of the other things. When you create a landing page, then you're off looking for some kind of a lead capture and management structure, and often that means an off-site third-party service that you have to pay for. So, or at least if it's a free service, you end up having to pay eventually when your list gets big enough, and that's always interesting because you're going to grow, or you want to grow, so you want to get something that's going to work right from the start, that you don't have to change later on or suddenly get hit by that big bill. It lets you create and manage keywords. It lets you manage SEO compliance. Now, I have not got into that part yet, but I'm suspicious from what I've seen so far that they're going to replace Yoast, and that's really interesting to me. You can create and manage your XML sitemap. Now, again, that's something that Yoast is doing, so here these guys are offering an alternative. And, I'm finding Yoast to be a little annoying. First of all, their Yoast update message is always there. I thought it was an error that they were going to fix, and then when they released another release, I thought, oh, they forgot to fix it. But after 4 or 5 releases, and that silly message is there every time you refresh a screen or load a new screen, it's just getting a little bit annoying. I know I'm using Yoast, and I know I updated it. You don't have to tell me every time. And so, they've also pulled some things out of Yoast that used to be part and parcel to it. If you want them, you got to buy their premium version, and they're starting to play that game. So I'm not as enamored at Yoast. I like the system. I think their plugin is great, and I like their system, but I just don't like the game that they're playing with it. And so, hey, I'll look around at other things. It manages your robot.txt file, which is important, and it also manages your redirects, 301 and 302 redirects and wildcard redirects. That's something that Yoast used to do and they took out, and now I'm using another plugin yet in order to do the redirects. So this looks like it's going to put it all in one package. Manages email settings and sends out custom emails. A lot of interest in that. I'm very satisfied with the email package I'm using. I'm using MailPoet. Does a lot of great things for me for newsletters and so on. But this may come into that realm as well. So we'll have to see what's being done there. And then it creates the meta-description material for Facebook and Google and Twitter cards and all those sort of things. So if you're looking at some areas that you want to get into, they refer to it as Inbound Brew. That kind of caught my attention because I'm big on coffee. I think that's maybe the keyword that got my eye. But I'm also an inbound marketer, and inbound marketing is something that I've come to understand quite well. And I see that as the dynamic going forward, the marketing paradigm that is shaping up today to take over the entire marketing concept. And it is growing and spreading rapidly. And they're embracing that, and everything that I see in this plugin is supportive of that. So that's pretty impressive. And I think there's an opportunity here. As I say, I don't know how long they've been there, but it's a pretty good thing. Hey, Crystal, I see you joined. You look like you've already left, possibly too. I'm not sure. And question here: is it a background page designed like? Yeah, I did. Answer that already there, Cindy. Thank you. And yeah, Cindy's also placed the if you put the / in the queue, we get the cue ball so we can know what's going on. Thanks for reiterating that. But anyway, that plugin, has anybody here used Inbound Brew yet? Anybody else playing with it or looking at it or maybe used it for a while? Just a yes in the that way. Yes in the sidebar if you have. Oh, Christopher, good. Chris, do you want to hop into a seat and share with what you're finding so far? Because I think this is going to blow the socks off of some stuff going forward. I could be wrong, but and I've lost a few times on bets, but I'd put money on this one. Just a second, we'll get you in there. There we go. Can't hear you. I'm not hearing you. Anybody else hearing Chris? Oh, he's gone out and come back in. Yeah, actually, since Monday when it was a catastrophe, Blab has been playing by the rules mostly. A couple of little things that are dicey, but it's doing a whole lot better. So I'm pleased with that. Better. There you go. We can hear you now. Little volume, maybe.
That could have been. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
it's one of those blabby things.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, I've been playing around with the Inbound Brew, looking at it. Once again, we try to find as many plugins that are out there that are going to require less plugins needed by students and first timers. So it is very promising. I haven't run into any conflicts yet with what we're doing on our Genesis framework. But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, boy, this is gonna take the place of replacing a lot of plugins that people are bringing in, particularly newbies. But where it's really going to help is it's really going to help the people that are instructors, because now they're not going to have to teach somebody 5 or 6 different types of plugins, or have them put them in, or deal with any of that. One-stop shopping, which everybody loves, and there are a lot of nice. You mentioned the autoresponder possibilities of this. Yes, I do see that. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, the idea of not so many plugins, generally, as long as the plugin is maintained properly, there won't be any conflicts within the plugin itself. And so when you've got people putting in 4 or 5 different plugins to do the various things, and they're choosing from a variety of options in those, if they're putting in, say, an SEO plugin, there's 2 major ones, but there's probably 5 or 6 other minor ones that people can choose. And now you have to deal with all the different conflicts that can happen in those plugins.
That's correct.
And I don't know about you, but I spend a little time sorting those things out. And so getting, I'm not big on putting everything in one plugin, especially if it's not stuff that I need. But these guys seem to be, aggregating the key elements that are, that go together, that deal with this topic, and they seem to have looked at it pretty seriously. So I think that's a good combination to look at, and they seem to have done it efficiently. I did have one problem with it. I'll share. I was using Firefox. I've used Firefox for years, and I really like Firefox. And when I installed it with Firefox on Wizard's Place, I got 2 error messages that had to do with resending headers. Any of the techie people will know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, it doesn't matter. It's not important. They're just error messages. And the plugin went in and it worked, but I had these 2 error messages and they wouldn't go away. So, it was an issue. And I checked with their tech support on it. I first Googled to see if other people were having that problem. And it was a fairly common problem with some other plugins, but it didn't show up with their plugin. And I checked with their tech support, and man, they responded right away. They got back to me a second time. They'd done a little bit of poking at it to see, and they thought it was something that they could address, but it wasn't their issue. It was a server issue and different things. And I was busy checking myself to see if I could find a conflict with a plugin or whatever. And I installed it on a new WordPress install on the same server. When they told me it might be a server issue, I'm always concerned about that because I hate to adapt my server to somebody's plugin. When I've got a good setup on my server. So I just did a brand new WordPress install on that server, actually as a subdomain of that same domain, so everything would be identical, and installed the plugin on that WordPress install, and it went in no problem, no error messages. So I knew it wasn't the server, but I did check. I got all the server specs and it shared them with them, and they said, yeah, it's good. And I put in a ticket with my server people, and they checked the server, and they did a little bit of tweaking about memory and different things and permissions, but they didn't fix the problem. Anyway, what I found was that the problem only occurred in Firefox, and apparently only in my Firefox. I don't know why, but other people using Firefox weren't having the problem. I could use other browsers. I'm on Chrome right now, of course, for Blab, and it didn't occur anywhere else. So I've actually switched from Firefox. I have not uninstalled it, just a little piece of for your information, folks. But I have stopped using Firefox. I've actually got a row of tabs open here on my Chrome browser that I was using this morning. I didn't close down everything before coming into Blab. It's been working fine. My memory usage, which I can see visually, is way below what it used to be on Firefox. I guess it's time to switch from Firefox. So I went out and I checked and looked at usage or market share on browsers, because I do check that periodically. And Firefox, which used to be #1, is now floating in the #3 area behind Microsoft. Boy, that's scary. Yeah. And way behind Chrome. Chrome is in #1 by a long shot, with a greater percentage than Firefox and Internet Explorer added together. So, boy, Chrome has taken the market. So it's about time this old dog got more into Chrome. And
well, the thing is, with Firefox deciding that they're not going to support Java any longer or use any Java scripting, now, I think that program, and I've run into this with some other things as well, using particularly with page builders and composers. Yeah. A lot of them are using a lot of scripting and a lot of Java scripting to make their code run faster. Instead of updating their PHP, they can update the Java scripting a lot quicker and faster. And that's where it seemed to be running into errors with Mozilla, with Firefox, running into that because it's no longer supported. And that call is no longer supported. And because that call is such an integral part to make that page builder run faster and smoother, guess what? It can't find it. Yeah. So it can't find it. It can't use it. So you're going to get that error message. Does it decrease the speed? I don't know. I don't know what the full outcome of that is going to be.
Well, a properly coded call to JavaScript, unless the JavaScript is essential to the structure, then a properly coded call will degrade back to the normal process. But that requires that the coders have written things properly, #1, and they don't always do that. But #2, that drop back, that takes up time. It's a small fraction of a second, milliseconds probably, but it just adds to the load. So, yeah, those are the kinds of things. And the very fact that this particular error occurs and wouldn't go away, no matter what was done, I was tied to Firefox. I mean, that's obviously time for me to go, and it's a sad parting. It's like a pet that you've had for years and years, and suddenly dies. I hate to let it go because there's a lot of things that I do in Firefox that I'm having to learn where they are in Chrome. They're there. Yeah. They're just in different places. But there are so many good things about Chrome. I've used Chrome when I've needed certain things, especially Blab. So I'm not alien, to it. It's not a brand new thing for me. But it is a big switch to let go. Even downloading files is different.
Sure.
The process as to how they're done and how you select the folders you want to put them in and so on. And now that I'm doing it after a couple of days, it's no big deal. But any switch like that is difficult, and that applies to everything we're doing in WordPress. That you do have the difficulty. WordPress updates fairly regularly. That's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because you have to learn the new stuff or figure it out.
Right.
It's tough. I see Dan joined and Bharat joined us. I think both have also left. But welcome, guys, if you're popping back in or to the replay.
But I think you're 100% right, because once you learn something in WordPress, like a browser, once you get familiar with it, you don't want to see that theme. You don't want to see that plugin go. You don't want to change it because that's the one that I know. That's the one that I've invested my time into. And I think that ultimately could hurt something like WordPress down the road, because people have invested a lot of time and a lot of effort to learn these plugins, get their plugins in, and there's just so many plugins out there, and you're only one upload from the next big thing that's going to totally alleviate the 15 different plugins that you've had to learn over the period of time. Now, there comes a time when that becomes frustrating and that becomes maddening for people that are out there, because I hear it from our own people only. So we try to limit our update or plugins as much as possible. But there does come a time whenever there's one that's so earth-shattering that we have to share it and we have to put it on. It's just, that's part of the WordPress animal. But as far as going with the builders and stuff like that, I know exactly what the builder is that you're talking about. I can't think of what that is right now, the one that generates the code for you. So that if you no longer use that builder, you still have all the code for all the pages, and you just have to grab a different theme. It's literally a builder. It's not a theme. But so many of these builders, these page builders, have gotten involved with selling themes and doing themes.
Yeah, I think Elegant Themes went the right way. They got got seduced by that idea of putting the page builder into their theme, but then they figured it out. They had that come to Jesus moment, and they pulled that out of their theme and made it a separate plugin, which is where it belongs. Right. And because then you can still change your theme, but you keep the Divi plugin, and the pages are still good. So the way it was before, you were tied into Divi theme. I actually did not use Divi theme for that single reason, that you were tied into it.
Really?
It's
never a big fan of Divi themes. Never.
Yeah, it's a great theme, and a lot of people like it, and it was good. I just don't like being tied to something, that I have to use now going forward because, that's what they've done. And if you use Divi theme and you use the Divi page builder built into it, then you were stuck with that. You could never leave. And that was, good marketing on their approach, but it's not in the spirit of WordPress. It's not in the open source spirit. And the whole.
And I thought you had to go to a setup field in order to add any HTML, and it was really clumsy. Yeah. It to say the least, was clumsy. And I'm an HTML guy like you. I can just zip it out in HTML, and that's a bad habit.
But let me do it in the editor.
Exactly. Yeah, let me just open up the editor and take care of this. And particularly the columns and pages. It's just it's just one of those things, one of those preferences. But I think as the page builders become more and more sophisticated, you're going to see more. But this whole builder is built like on the Bootstrap process of columns, of 12 columns per page. And you just decide how many columns you want, and you just populate it with information. Columns and rows, columns and rows. That's all that, well, that's all it is. That's the aspect of your screen. That's what you originally had back in the day of the old checkered boards and doing the websites designed off a pad that was a checkered pad, a gridded
exactly.
pad.
And we used to lay them out and figure them out, and what was going to go here and what was going to go there, and resize our images to suit. Now it's all just happening. But one of the things to think about with page builders too, folks, is if you're using one, it's rows and then columns within the rows. Remember that those columns are within the row, and if you put multiple rows, they each have their own columns. There's a tendency, and I got trapped into this myself. You put in a row, and then you put in, say, 3 columns, and you put in 3 big graphics. They're not huge graphics, but 3 large icons that are going to be, your about you and the services you offer and the features. And then underneath those, you put some text that relates to those 3 columns. So you've got, images, titles, and texts. Well, if you put in a row with those 3 images, and then you put another row with 3 blocks with the text, and some page builders you actually have to do that, and you don't put the text in with the image itself, because again, some page builders use a separate editor, a separate widget to hold the image, and then a separate widget for the text. And so your tendency is to put a row with 3 image widgets and put the images in, and then another row with 3 text widgets and put your text in. But and most of these page builders, all of the ones I've used, are beautifully responsive. So on a cell phone, it all lines up nicely. But what happens is the separate rows, your 3 images stack up, and then your next row, your 3 blocks of text stack up, which is not
so they don't match up, one after the other, exactly.
So what you need to do is you either need to do what I might do, or what Christopher might do in coding it, is put in a code box instead of an image box and a text box, and just code the sucker in there. Or in your row, in the same row, you can usually put a second batch of blocks. So you put your 3 image blocks and your 3 text blocks in the same row, so they're columns within the same row. Then those will position themselves properly.
They'll line up perfectly.
And that's the key. So it takes a little bit of getting used to with these things, a little bit of different thinking. It's like when we moved from tables, the old way of doing stuff, and not because it was the right way. Tables were never designed to be a layout tool, but we didn't have the layout tools, so we used tables. And because we were, in terms of page design, we were thinking magazines. Well, HTML was still thinking those old kids' books with the inline images. Daddy went to the zoo, and then there's a little picture of a zoo instead of the word zoo, and saw the lions and tigers, and there's a little lion and a little tiger. That was the way HTML was originally designed. And as designers, we moved beyond that, and so we grabbed what we had. But switching from tables for layout to divisions and nested divisions, what a learning curve that was. It was terrible.
I know. It didn't make sense to me.
And stuff was backwards, right? You had to put the stuff that went on the other side. It was working right to left instead of left to right. And so it was a whole new way of thinking. Well, these page builders take away all that problem, and they allow
they take away all that.
They allow the novice to go in and put stuff in on a page right away. It's awesome. I wish we had those.
Now, do you think that these page builders are designed for old dogs like us, or are they designed for the newbies that are coming out right now? Because they do answer a lot of questions that we had about WordPress for years and trying to get stuff lined up right. But I found out the page builders, I understand what they're doing now, and we can read the code, so we can look at it and say, how did they do that? That's how they did it, and it helps you understand, by viewing the page.
And that's absolutely right. That for the old dogs, that's what it does. It lets us know what's going on. But for Chuck said, both, I think there. Greg rather said both, and I think he's referring to both old guys and new guys doing that. And Walter is what's Walter? Oh, he's on his way out. Okay, see you, Walter. Thanks for being here. But the concept for new people means they simply don't have to learn all that background stuff. Now, I'm of mixed emotions about that. I really think that you should learn enough to be able to understand what's going on. That comes with time, but it doesn't come in a vacuum. I won't put you on the spot to have you jump into a seat, although you're welcome to if you want to, Barb. But maybe you just want to comment in the sidebar too. But we've worked for quite a while, and I think at some point things clicked into what you were doing in terms of laying stuff out on your page and what's actually going on behind the scenes a little bit. Barb is not a coder. She doesn't work in the text editor. She works in the visual editor. But when I've worked with her and shown her how these things have gone, and she is a participant in the WP classroom, she has over time picked up a lot of information. And now I see her doing things with the visual editor that she could never have done before because the concept wasn't there. What was going on in the background was meaningful, was necessary to be meaningful to what you're doing in the foreground and why things didn't work and how things needed to go. And so what happens is that these page builders, they do it for you, but you want to understand a little bit about what's actually going on in terms of rows and columns, so that what I just mentioned about getting the stuff in the right places so that it lines up properly in the mobile view, the cell phone view. If you don't understand why those three images line up and then the three text blocks line up, you can't fix it. You can't look at it and say, oh, well, if I take those and instead of having them in their own row, I put them in as a separate set of boxes in the same row, and then it works. You don't come upon that. It's not an intuitive thing that you're going to get without the background to understand how these things line up and that the rows, each row is treated separately when it comes to lining up. So, and there's a whole lot more like that, and it comes over time when you get exposure to some of the things that are happening. So I have people that have said to me, literally said to me, well, I've got a car and I don't want to know what goes on under the hood. So I've got a website. I don't want to, know what. Well, that's okay. Then hire me, the mechanic, to work on your website. Yeah. Don't mess with the carburetor or mess with the fuel injection these days. It shows my age. Don't mess with the fuel injection and then come to me and say, why doesn't it work? If you don't want to know what's under the hood, don't get under the hood. Hire it done. But you're better off to at least have some idea, because then when you do come to me to have it fixed, you know whether you're getting the right attention you need or whether you're being shafted. You go to a mechanic and you have no idea what's going on in the car, and he's selling you a Framitz, guarantee it. So, Does your car have a Framitz, Christopher?
Absolutely. No, but I've bought a bunch that have. So I am not a auto mechanic, though. My father was. My father was a mechanic and a diesel mechanic, and he would take us to work with him in the summer. It was for heavy construction company, so we dug ditches and worked on stuff. And at the end of every summer, he said, "Now you can either do what I do for a living that pays very, very well, or you can go to college. What do you want to do?" And I have to say, of all four of my other brothers, all five of us went to college. We all paid our own way to go to college, and all five graduated. And we're the only relatives that did go to college. None of our other relatives did, cousins and so forth.
Yeah, looking at that hard work on the end of a shovel, that's wild.
No, that wasn't for me. I knew that wasn't. There had to be an easier way to make a buck. That was it.
I worked one summer digging trenches by hand, pickaxe and
That'll
shovel.
do her.
And I worked one summer doing roofing, hot tar roofs, hot August sunshine and hot tar. That's an experience. Let me tell you.
Come home, and when you come home dirty and messy from that job, you really are dirty and
just
messy
the
and
fumes that you breathe in. You're blowing out black gunk for a week. Yeah,
for days.
Yeah, it's don't.
Well, I think that Cindy said it well there whenever she said that now that you know, you want your HTML back. Sometimes you really wish.
See, the beauty of WordPress, and this is the thing that you want to understand, certainly from our perspective, Christopher and I and anybody else who's done old time websites can appreciate this. WordPress is a framework. WordPress core is a framework that does all the hard stuff that and a lot of it we didn't do because the technology wasn't there. We've got HTML5 and PHP now. I started with HTML2, I think, and built from there. When 2.5 came out, I was ecstatic at some of the new stuff.
I was happy.
2.4 even. But and when WordPress 3 and then WordPress 4, oh my goodness, or not WordPress, but HTML 3 and 4, I just couldn't believe it. So yeah.
Yay, standardizations. Hey, yay. We welcome standardization.
So, goodbye center tag. But so the HTML is good, and we don't want to kiss that goodbye. WordPress simply takes all of the stuff, including the new stuff, the PHP and all that sort of processing, the database integration. And I have built sites just before I got into WordPress. And this is back when WordPress wasn't quite ready for prime time as a website. It was still just a blog. And I had looked at it, and I'd used it on a couple sites where I'd built the site and then had a menu item that went to the WordPress site installed in a subdirectory. And then I put a menu item on WordPress that came back to the website. So there could be a blog with the website, but they were separate. So at that point, I was contracted by a guy to develop a site, a package that he could deploy that would allow him to put a site up, set a configuration file. It was a text file. This guy had no coding ability, so he didn't want to get into databases and other stuff. He wanted a text file that he could go down the text file, and it had what basically were variables, but they were the names of the things, so background color or font color or font size or whatever, equals, and then in quotation marks, the value. My program read that text file and plucked out the values and put them into the appropriate structure. So he would take that text file into a text editor, edit all the components in it for what he wanted for the site. My site was coded. It was a series of PHP files and database interfaces. And I even had a file that just like the automated WordPress installation actually set up the database, and so he would take this zip file, upload it to his hosting, unzip it into the folder, run the install program, which was install.php, which did the database stuff and so on, and then he would take the text file and edit that, and then open up the index.php, which was the home, the website, and it would all have all of the colors, the structure, and so on. Now, all of the sites were similar in that they had, a banner at the top with a menu. They had a sidebar with certain things and a content area. And I didn't have the option to move the sidebar to the other side or have two sidebars or any of those stuff. We just had a basic system. But I was contracted to build that and create that, write the code for it so that he would have a system which really was a precursor to WordPress that we have now. And had I continued developing it, it could have, gone on and been something. But when I saw WordPress, when it came out, I forget now, 2.4 or 2.5, I think, was when they brought in pages and various settings like that. I realized that there's no reason for me to be developing all this stuff anymore. They're developing it. I'll use WordPress to do the stuff that I want to do. And so I got him onto WordPress, and he now builds WordPress, and he uses one of the frameworks and does all his stuff that way. So WordPress is the system, but the content page, what goes into the content, is still HTML. When you use that editor, the visual editor, and you do those things, it's actually writing HTML behind the scenes. Create a page using the visual editor, and then go over to the text editor and see what you've got. You've got HTML. Now, you generally don't want to do that, because when you go over to the text editor and then back again, it messes up the HTML a little bit. It's okay. It won't mess up your page at all. But then if somebody needs to come in and fix the HTML at some time in the future, it's a little messy. So it's best not to do that. But you can do it, and you can see that the visual editor is actually writing HTML for you. So when I go in and I use the text editor from scratch, I'm just writing what the visual editor will write, but I have absolute control over it, and I do it better. The visual editor doesn't do HTML well, and I can do more with that HTML than the visual editor can. The visual editor doesn't offer you all the features that HTML supports. So we can do more. Yes. But in that box that is the content area of the page, we are building what we used to build as websites in the content area of those websites. We just no longer have to build all the framework around it. And that's the beauty of WordPress. Yeah. These page builders are the solution to the visual editor, which is really limited. And because they use, as you said, JavaScript and jQuery and all the various things that they do, they can do so much more than you can do with the visual editor. The problem is they don't write out the HTML, and I'm not sure why they don't do that. I think they could with almost every instance. I think it's just that they want to keep some control. It's kind of a level, a hierarchy of control over the distribution of their product. Again,
my friend Linux guy, he's a big Linux programmer, and he's well known throughout the Linux community. And when I talked to him about WordPress, because I was really thinking about just junking this whole thing and saying I'm sick and tired of writing code. There has to be a better way. This guy would know if there is a better way. I talked to him, hey, I'm thinking about going maybe the WordPress route and everything else. And he goes, oh, yeah. He says, you're an HTML guy. You'll get along well in WordPress. And I said, why is that? And he said, WordPress was almost originally developed as a training tool to teach people HTML. And I said, how do you get that? And they said they went from a visual editor to a text editor to show you exactly what you need to do in order to get things done. And that's all it was. It was back and forth switching. He said, and that is like the main core of WordPress is switching between visual editor versus text editor. And in every program, in post, in everything, you have that option to switch back and forth. And he said that was almost why it wasn't why it was originally set up, but they wanted to give you something that you could do blogs with, where you could either type it in with HTML or do it the easy way and go with the text editor that was supposed to look like Windows Word.
Yeah.
Or Word,
WordPad or something like that. Yeah. The thing with the page builder, if we'd had the technology for page builders, and if the mentality was there that's in the general community was there in the WordPress development community at the time, probably there would have been no visual editor and no text editor. There would have just been a page builder built in. And I'm glad that didn't happen, because the options are very, very useful. And I think it's made WordPress a far more powerful thing. I kind of chuckle every now and then, somebody who's a forum where talking about WordPress is going to run its course. It's going to be dead by next year, and here's the new package that's going to take over. Come and join me and build your websites with this. And when you look at the structure, WordPress is now fully 25% of the installed base. The entire internet, 25% is WordPress. They are over 63%. I think they're at 65% now of the content management system, the CMS structures, things that use databases for the websites. 65%. I mean, that's phenomenal. The nearest competitor is down at 9%. You look at those numbers, and it's crazy. And Matt Mullenweg, the one of the originators of WordPress and still with it, owner, president, CEO of Automatic Corporation, he says that he expects that in the next 3 to 4 years, WordPress will top 50% of the installed base. If you look at the number, number of WordPress installs, new installs that are happening every day, it's tens of thousands, could even be millions happening daily. This is really scary. The internet is set to double in size. There's something like 1.5 billion people on the internet right now, and it's set to double by 2020. So if the number of users on the internet doubles, and most of those who are getting websites of their own go with WordPress, which is likely right now. There's no other, singular option that would take the lion's share of it. So it's likely to be WordPress. Then the total number and the percentage really easily tops that 50%. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. Bye-bye, Barb. We'll see you again. Thanks for dropping by. Good to have you with us. And we're past the top of the hour here. I could talk all day. And I got work to do. I know Chris has got work to do. We got to get going. So I'm going to stop the recording here. YTM, I see you got in at the last minute. That's cool. Welcome. And we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for being here. And if you're on the replay, check us for other replays and check out wizardsplace.com. We'll see you again.